Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Pokemon Alpha Sapphire. In the last rip we continued our hunt across Hoenn for various legendaries and megastones, and we ended off after reaching the Battle Resort here, the game's proper post-game area. Now this is where you can do a very specific set of combat challenges that we'll be talking about more later on. For right now, and for what most of this video is going to be, we're going to be taking a look around the facilities to showcase what you can do. With that said, most facilities around here take what's known as BP, which you get by battling up at the Battle Maison, the thing at the center of the area. Most notably though, there are a lot, and I mean a lot of move tutors here who can teach you some really good moves that, if you're trying to make certain Pokemon into specific tools out of a toolbox, can go a long way, especially if they're not learned naturally by that Pokemon via TM or leveling up. With that said, I don't go out of my way to super customize my moves. I do change up my movesets and held items a good bit coming up still, but we'll talk more about that next part when it's a lot more relevant by and large. Worth noting also, by the way, there's an HP up back here. Now, this area is emblematic of one of the bigger detractions from Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and honestly, for pretty good reason all the same. You see, the short version of it is, Ruby and Sapphire's post-game area was the Battle Tower, which was also in Gen 2. We saw it back in Fire Red and Leaf Green briefly, and it was effectively in Heart Gold and Soul Silver via the Battle Frontier there. But that's the thing. The Battle Frontier was what was actively here in Emerald, and it was the largest post-game Hoenn has by and large. Here in Gen 6, we get what's in the main Gen 6 for the post-game activity, which is, love it or hate it, I'm personally more towards the latter. But before we get into that topic any further, there's notably several Pokemon trainers you can fight across the Battle Resort proper that actively focus on a single type. This Aroma Lady in specific focuses on the Grass type and has a lot of Grass types you're not likely to see up to this point as it is. Starting off, she has a Victory Bell, a Gen 1 Grass Poison type that evolves from its pre-evolution Weeping Bell when a Leaf Stone is used on it. Chlorophyll or Gluttony for its abilities, which we've covered before. Being Grass Poison, Victory Bell is weak to Flying, Fire, Psychic, and Ice. It's a decent mixed attacker with okay defenses. Depending on what you're doing, if you're looking for a Grass type, you could do a lot worse than this, but also largely the Grass starters, for instance, will do you a lot better. Next up, she's throwing out Jumpluff, a Gen 2 Grass Flying type that evolves from Skiploom at level 27. Chlorophyll, Leaf Guard, or Infiltrator for its abilities. Being Grass Flying, Jumpluff is weak to Flying, Poison, Rock, Fire, and Ice, Ice being a 4x weakness. Jumpluff is really fast and has an okay special defense stat in the large, but its attack stats and physical stats aren't anything really worth noting. I've always loved that Pokemon line's designs, but I've never really enjoyed using them. Going back to the prior topic while I finish off this battle, I covered back in my Heart Gold Soul Silver Let's Play that I'm not usually big on the Pokemon post-games to begin with when it comes to just the endless battling type stuff that the Battle Frontiers usually represented, as well as what was represented here in the Battle Resort. But I have to admit, the Battle Frontiers largely have more interesting and varied challenges than what we have here. Getting a little ahead of ourselves here. But at the same time, it does still extend the gameplay time if you like the game enough. Getting way ahead of ourselves. I think at the moment I'm around 45 to 50 hours of gameplay time. By the time I finish what we're here to do in the next 2 videos or so, I think I'm approaching 90 to 95 hours. So I spent a while here. Not a fan of the fact I had to do that though, given how tedious it got to be at the end of it all. But again, I'll talk more about that as we go. For right now, the Pokemon trainer I'm fighting now heavily prioritizes Poison-type Pokemon, and after you get past their wall of Amok, we do end up fighting a new Pokemon for this playthrough, the Gen 5 Bug Poison type. This is Scolipede, the final form of Venipede, evolving from its evolution Whirlipede at level 30. Poison Point Swarm for its main abilities with Speed Boost is a hidden one, which is going to be pretty neat to get. Being Bug Poison type, it's weak to Flying, Rock, Fire, and Psychic. Scolipede is a really fast physical attacker with an okay physical defense stat on top of that. Its HP and special stats aren't anything too great, but it does what it needs to do. Next up here we got Toxicroak, the Gen 4 Poison Fighting type evolving from Crowagunk at level 37. Anticipation, Dry Skin, and Poison Touch for its abilities. Dry Skin in specific has some interesting plays you can do with it from my memory. Being Poison Fighting, it's weak to Flying, Ground, and Psychic, Psychic notably being a 4x weakness. Toxicroak is a really good physical attacker with an okay special attack and speed stat to back it up as well. Its defenses aren't great, but its HP's alright. And next up we have Drapion, the Gen 4 Poison Dark type. Battle Armor Sniper or Keen Eye for its abilities evolves from Scorpy at level 40. Poison Dark means it's weak to ground exclusively and immune to Psychic. It has a really high physical defense stat and decent attack and speed on top of that. Again, its special stats aren't anything super spectacular, but if you're looking for a physical attacker, you could do a lot worse. Which, mind you, Gen 4 doing the physical special split when it did means they also actively designed a lot of Pokemon around that very much directly at the time. And in this little room over here, we have a bunch of items we can pick up. Most of these are the vitamin-type items you can use to help boost the base stats of a Pokemon in question via the EVs. But also notably, there's a Gengar right here. That allows you to Mega Evolve the Gen 1 Ghost Poison-type Gengar into Mega Gengar. Base Gengar, at this point in the series, still had Levitate for its ability before it got Cursed Body in Gen 7. Base Gengar I've used before in an LP. Really good special attacker with some really good speed. And while it can't exactly take a hit too well physically, I love using this thing. When you Mega Evolve, it gains an additional 20 physical defense, 40 special attack, 20 special defense, and 20 speed. On top of that, its ability becomes Shadow Tag, which prevents opponents from fleeing. While I absolutely love the design of this one, it's honestly probably one of my least favorite Mega Evolutions to use off the top of my head because it's a lot more of a trickster-type use Pokemon than an outright aggressive Pokemon like most Megas tend to be. But it has a lot of places and a lot of teams still all the same, especially if you're looking for a good attacker that's Ghost-type in some form. I remember spending some good time here in the Battle Resort back when I first played Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, but it largely wasn't for the main attraction here. It was because if you're trying to do Pokemon breeding, this is the best place to go overall for two specific reasons we'll talk about momentarily. With that said, time for our next Pokemon trainer. This girl here focuses entirely on the Fairy-type Pokemon. Starting off, she's going to throw out Whimsicott, which evolves from Cottonee if you use a Sunstone on it. Back in Gen 5 when this Pokemon was first introduced, it was a pure Grass type, but Gen 6 gave it a really good buff in giving it a Fairy subtyping. So as of this generation on, it is weak to Flying, Poison, Steel, Fire, and Ice, but immune to Dragon. Whimsicott's main attraction stat-wise is its speed, as its attack and defense stats on both grounds aren't anything super special, but if you put a lot of status moves on it and it has the Prankster ability it can have, you can do a lot of setup with it. Otherwise, it'll have Infiltrator or Chlorophyll for an ability. It's fine. Not my overall favorite, but I have used way worse over the years, frankly. After we take out the next Pokemon, which is Wigglytuff, they're going to throw out their next new Pokemon, which is going to be the Gen 6 Pure Fairy type Slurpuff, which evolves from Swirlix when traded holding a Whipped Dream. Pure Fairy type means that it is weak to Poison and Steel, but immune to Dragon. Slurpuff's perfectly fine. No super standout stats, but no real weaknesses either. Partner that with its ability Sweet Veil or hidden ability Unburden. Sweet Veil, I think, prevents it and any ally Pokemon from falling asleep. Unburden, I believe, if they use a held item up, their speed increases pretty drastically. So you can do some neat little setup things with that. Not my overall favorite Fairy type, but you could do a lot worse, honestly. Next up, they're throwing out Granbull, which prior to Gen 6 was a pure normal type, but now it's a pure fire type. This evolves from Snubbull at level 23. Being a pure fairy type, this is weak to poison and steel, but immune to dragon. Granbull ability-wise can either have Intimidate, which is the most common, Quick Feet, which is pretty good, and Rattle, which can be especially interesting in some cases, as Granbull is notably slow, but if you raise its speed up somehow, its insane physical attack stat can go to a pretty good length. Its special stats aren't great, but you're not using it for them. Once again, I've considered using a Granbull a couple of times over the years, especially post-typing shift. The main reason I usually don't is that there's some other fairy type I might find more attractive for whatever team build I'm building up to in some form or manner. Oh, why hello there. Ugh. I want to ask you something. Where am I? You're at the Battle Resort, more specifically. Battle Resort? It's a battle place, yet also a resort. I don't get it. Hey, what happened to you? You're absolutely soaked to the skin. Even in a tropical place like Hoenn, if you're soaked like that, you'll catch cold. Yeah. Oh boy, I guess I have no other choice. Come to my cottage. Eagle-eyed Pokemon veterans immediately know who that character is, but we'll talk more about them later on when we actually run into them again, as they've been moved to a different part of the Battle Resort. Now, this next NPC is also very important to talk to if you want to try and get as many items as you can across the region. Hello, I'm traveling around the Hoenn region by bike. Do you have a bike too? Wow, that's a Rydal bike. It looks very cool. Maybe I should buy one too. That is the third of 3 NPCs you can talk to that directly comment on the bike you got from Rydell back in Mauville. The first was the Hex Maniac over at the desert, the second was the Ace Trainer just west of Fortree, and that's the third. Now that we've talked to all 3, we can actively go back to Rydell, and a certain little thing will happen. For right now, though, this is the Pokemon Daycare Annex. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire has 2 daycares you can send Pokemon to, and both of them can breed Pokemon, so you can actively have 2 pairs breeding at once if you're trying to get 2 specific other Pokemon done. Notably, you can also talk to this lady here in order to get the TM for Swagger, which we've talked about before in the LP. Now, what's really good about this specific daycare is if you go outside and find the kid who gives you the eggs after they are laid by the Pokemon in question, you can then hold left or right until you hit an edge, and upon that point, you can just hold up and your Pokemon trainer will just move around the entire island, especially on the motorcycle, in a complete circle uninterrupted. So, this is the most convenient place to overall hatch Pokemon in the game. A lot of Pokemon games started having areas like this around the time they went 3D. Gen 6 probably is the most notable one in that regard, though, because you're literally just going in a circle around Lumiose Tower. So if you're trying to actively raise Pokemon, good place for it. Also, that NPC right there is interesting. She'll actively allow you to swap the music here at the Battle Resort between one of a few different musical tracks. In specific, the songs you can hear are the Battle Resort's own theme, the Victory Road theme, the Rival theme, the Super Training theme, or the Hurry Along theme that's been around since Gen 1, the little tutorial guide theme, the I like most of the songs here, except that one, as I think it's just weirdly too happy for the atmosphere that can happen here, but at the same time, I guess it's a resort. Up the staircase next to the Pokemon Center is where the higher section of the Battle Resort is, which is not only where the Battle Maison itself actively is, there's a couple more Pokemon trainers. You can find the houses that are attached to this area for the resort part of the resort, to the east of this section. With that said, let's get into our next Pokemon trainer we can fight here. This guy in specific focuses on ground-type Pokemon. Starting off, he's throwing out Nidoking, the Gen 1 Poison Ground type that evolved from Nidorino when you use a Moonstone on it. Poison Point, Rivalry, or Sheer Force for its abilities makes for a pretty good set in general. Poison Ground means it's weak to ground, water, psychic, and ice, but immune to electricity. Nidoking is a really good mixed attacker that's decently fast as well, and even got better with a notable attack stat boost, I think, in Gen 6 beyond, I think. Some Pokemon got stat boosts, I think, in Gen 5, 6, and 7, all collectively, more or less. I've used this Pokemon to pretty good effect in the past. In fact, I want to say the first or maybe second time I beat Fire Red, I had a Nidoking on my team. I think because, honestly, it could have been its counterpart we'll be talking about in a moment. It's been long enough that I can't quite remember. That's why I'm thinking it's my second playthrough that happened in, as I feel like I would remember my first playthrough team a little more vividly. Speaking of its counterpart, though, they're throwing that out next. Nidoqueen, evolving from Nidorina if you use a Moonstone on it. Poison Point, Rivalry, or Sheer Force for abilities. That sounds familiar a little bit, doesn't it? This is, again, weak to ground, water, psychic, and ice, but immune to electricity. Nidoqueen's stats are generally lower than Nidoking's, but they're also more balanced because of that, as they allocate a few more points to the weaknesses that Nidoking actively has. So if you're looking for something that's just a generally good Pokemon, that's the way to go. And next up, the fear of Gen 4 players everywhere, their next Pokemon is Garchomp. This evolves from Gabite at level 48. Dragon Ground type, meaning that it is weak to Ice, Dragon, and Fairy, but immune to Electric, 4 times weak to Ice, notably. Garchomp is a nuts physical tank with high HP and attack stats and a really good speed stat on top of that. It's a pseudo-legendary for good reason. Ability-wise, it'll either have Sound Veil or Rough Skin as its hidden ability. Both are fine, but notably, it also has a Mega Evolution I'll talk about in a moment. Next up is Gastrodon. You can actively encounter these in a lot of the various Mirage spots across Hoenn here. Water Ground type from Gen 4 that evolves from Shellos at level 30. Water Ground means it's exclusively weak to Grass, but it's a 4 times weakness and immune to Electric. Gastrodon has a really high HP stat and okay attack stats on side of that, but it's really slow. It'll either have Sticky Hold, Storm Drain, or Sand Force for its abilities. Sticky Hold has some potential play cases with a skill swap in some cases, but not for me. As for Mega Garchomp, though, it actively gets Sand Force for its ability, which boosts certain moves' power in a Sandstorm state. Stat-wise, Mega Evolving causes Garchomp to gain 40 physical attack, 20 physical defense, 10 special defense at the cost of 10 speed, and 40 special attack. So it does re-specialize, but it's still really usable. Our next trainer in specific focuses on Bug-type Pokemon. First off, they're throwing out Galvantula, which evolves from Joltik that we saw earlier in the LP at level 36. Compound Eyes, Unnerve, or Swarm for abilities, which is fine. Being Bug Electric type, it is weak to Rock and Fire exclusively, but no immunities. Galvantula is just a generally fine Pokemon. Decent mixed attacker with a lean towards special attack and high speed. Perfectly usable bug type. Next up, we're gonna see Crustle, the Gen 5 bug rock type that evolves from Dwebble at level 34. Sturdy, shell armor, or weak armor for abilities. I'd honestly prefer sturdy myself, but hey, do what you do. Bug rock type means that it's weak to rock, steel, and water. Crustle has a nuts physical defense stat and an okay special defense stat on top of that. It is slow, but it's also good at physically attacking, especially I believe after it got a stat boost in Gen 7, I think? I've used this to good effect in the past. Not the bug type I would reach for first, especially out of Gen 5, but I like it a lot. I've always adored its weirdly cubed design. I don't know why. Next up is Leaveney. This evolves from Swadloon, the evolution of Swaddle when leveled up with High Friendship. Swarm, Chlorophyll, or Overcoat for abilities. Overcoat, I believe, protects the Pokemon in question from any weather-related damage. Leaveney is a bug grass type, meaning it is weak to Flying, Poison, Rock, Bug, Fire, and Ice, Flying and Fire being 4 times weaknesses. Outside of the double 4 times weaknesses, this is an okay Pokemon. High physical attack stat, decent speed. No real active weaknesses outside of the, active 4 times weaknesses that it has to different types. If you're looking purely on a stat basis, it's a fine one. I've used it okay in the past, just not one I prefer to use on the whole. This here's the Whismur Show. This is a minigame that's pretty much just directly the find the ball game you play with cups where you just kind of shuffle the cups around. They're going to randomly choose one of the 4 Whismur for you to follow, and they're just going to move randomly about, and you have to figure out which one's the one that you were told to track. If you do this correctly, you get a big mushroom, which you can sell for about $2,500. There's better ways to get that money back, but notably you can do this once a day, so it can help you build up in the long run if you're trying to save up for a lot of Ultra Balls or full restores or something, potentially probably more accurately the base stat items in the case you don't care to do super training. It's cute, and notably there was a very similar minigame to this back in Gen 5, but not my way if I want to try and grind money. Now, this area does bring up something I was kind of tempted to do for this LP, but ultimately decided against more for time investment reasons than anything. Namely, I've talked about before in this LP that I did a stream playthrough of Emerald around the time I did the Heart Gold Soul Silver LP to prepare for something for when I eventually get to Platinum in specific. I was tempted to load that save file up and actively do the Battle Frontier there, just so I could showcase the Gen 3 Battle Frontier in some way, because getting a little ahead of ourselves, whenever I get to Platinum, I'm probably not going to showcase the Battle Frontier there, because I did all that exact same Battle Frontier back in Soul Silver. The main reason I decided against it is largely because by the time I was finished with the Battle Maison stuff here, I was just tired of Pokemon for a little bit. I needed a break. But yeah, here's a little bit of a stab. They even talk about the Battle Tower being built here, which is actually what the postgame was in the original Ruby and Sapphire as it was. They probably meant that to be a little bit of an elbow jab and wink and nod to be like, yeah, remember that? But it does feel kind of weird given how lesser this area is to the Battle Frontier generally. Ah, you! So you really came. Blast it. Huh. Then I guess I've got to do it. No, it's too dangerous, baby! It's fine, darling. I can take care of this. You just take this chance to get away. What are you talking about, baby? I couldn't possibly leave you here. Did we make a promise to each other? We're supposed to survive together. Darling. If we're going to get caught anyway, then let's get caught together. I won't leave you here alone. Whatever punishment awaits us for betraying our teams, we'll face it together. No need to worry about that. You? But why? Team Magma and Team Aqua both. We've all changed. And all because of this champion next to me. Yeah, that's how it is. You? No one's gonna come chasing after a couple of runaways like you anymore. Then, why, how did you even find us? I know how you think. And besides, our leader Maxie came here too. I could guess he had some reason for that. He never misses a detail after all. I'm sure he knew the two of you were here. And our Archie's just the same. He's testing himself against the fine trainers at the Battle Maison, taking a good hard look at who he is. I don't think he's bothered at all about some runaway like you. So that's how it is, huh? You know, to be honest, I came here to bring you back with me, but looks like maybe I shouldn't have bothered. Just take good care of her, you hear? You mean... Well, wonders never cease. I think that little Miss Magma and I would arrive at the same conclusion. But that's how it is, so yeah, you're free. Be as happy as you can be with that fellow of yours. You busybody. You bet I will. Well, that was suddenly heartwarming out of nowhere. I'm sorry. I'm a bit overwhelmed by all this. Could you come back a little later? Now, I've actively yet to record it because it's going to be in that final session I've talked about now for probably several videos in a row, honestly. And if I have sorry, I keep bringing it up. There is actively a second event in there that we will see at that point if you go back in. But again, I'll save that for later. Worth noting, this lady in this house will give you one of, I believe, like 6 or 7 different berries randomly per day. And hey, if you're trying to do stuff with berries, be it battle use items or stuff related to Pokemon contests, good to keep in mind revisiting every single one of the berry people. There's also this gentleman NPC here who actively speaks in a foreign language no matter what language you're playing the game in. Here in English, he speaks Japanese. I forget the exact wording, Future Me's probably editing it on top of this, but largely, if memory serves, he's talking about your general skill level being higher than average and that you should try to shoot for the Pokemon Worlds Championship, like the one Ace Trainer did last time. I do kind of like that he always speaks a language different than the one you're playing in, though, as it really plays into the whole united world aspect of not only Pokemon itself, but the fan base at large for the franchise and a lot of other franchises. Sometimes having those little moments to remind you can be kind of neat. This specific NPC in the middle of this house here is a little interesting. They'll give you another ribbon just to kind of showcase the Pokemon in general, what you've done with them. In specific, he'll give you a ribbon if the level you have the Pokemon currently at is 30 levels than the one you initially caught them at, which in most cases I'd say is probably going to be the case, assuming you caught them anytime during the campaign. But it really depends on what you've done and if you're doing any kind of raising for Pokedex completion. But also from this NPC, you can get the level release for your base. If you have that in your secret base and activate it, the multiplayer battles you can get into with friends in those bases have their level limits removed. So they're no longer set to, I believe, like level 40 or 50. They're whatever level the Pokemon trainers actively have their Pokemon at. So it's a little bit better for a no-holds-barred type match. And in here we have our mysterious gentleman once again. Poor man, it seems he has amnesia. Oh boy. You again. I apologize for my actions earlier. The truth of the matter is, I have no idea in the world what I'm doing here. Or even who I am. The first thing of which I can remember is awakening here upon this beach, baffled, lacking awareness of the circumstances that brought me here. And at that moment, you appeared. I feel as though I have some duty that I should be accomplishing. But of it, I can remember nothing. Please, pardon me for going on about myself. In fact, I feel quite uneasy. Of course, I must thank you for finding me. And he gives us the Auntie Knight. That I found in the pocket of my overcoat. It was the only thing I had on me. I do not know if it'll prove worth anything, but I'm glad to give it to you. That allows us, of course, to Mega Evolve Aldino, but I already talked about Mega Aldino when we actually ran into our first Aldino back on that one Mirage Island. And for right now, at least, that's all I want to get done here at the Battle Resort. We haven't checked out the main Battle Maison itself, but that's because at this point I believe I was towards the end of a session, and I just wanted to do one more thing before I ended off, and it was not touching anything regarding the Battle Maison's main mechanics yet. In specific, whichever harbor you end up at after leaving the Battle Resort, you want to leave towards the other port city, as this trip allows you to stay on the ship a little longer and explore it as a little bit of a, not even really a sub-dungeon, just a side area, kind of like the SSN. This ferry is built to plow through fast-running currents. You hope to enjoy your voyage with us. The main reason you want to do this is that there's a couple of items you can grab on here that are really good, but also there's some new Pokemon trainers you can face off against and see new Pokemon and all that jazz. If you're trying to complete your Pokedex as best you can, always good to check it out here. Also in specific, talking to this bug catcher here gives us the TM for Embargo. I think we've talked about that move already in this LP, but just to repeat its purpose in the case I haven't. That makes it so that for 5 turns, the held item of the Pokemon hit with it cannot be used, and the trainer in question, in the case it's, say, like just a main campaign battle, cannot use any items from their bag on it. So in that case, it's actually not too bad to use against like the Elite Four or Champion to prevent them from using like full restores or hyper potions, but there's a lot better stuff for casual play, I find. Our next new Pokemon, though, held by this gentleman, is good old Rapidash, a Gen 1 pure fire type, so it is weak to ground, rock, and water. Rapidash is a very fast physical attacker, but its special stats aren't anything to really laugh at either. It's not the most tanky Pokemon, but you don't need it to be. Ability-wise, it'll either have Runaway, Flash Fire, or Flame Body. I prefer Flame Body myself there, but I could go with anything really there if I want to use a Rapidash. And next up, he already throws out our next new Pokemon, another horse. This is Zebstrika, the Gen 5 electric Pokemon that evolves from its pre-evolution Blitzel at level 27. Lightning Rod, Motor Drive, or Sap Sipper for its ability. I think we haven't talked about Motor Drive there yet. Motor Drive, if a Pokemon with that is hit by an electric-type move, their speed gets raised by 1 stage. Stat-wise, Zebstrika is a very fast physical attacker that's got a good special attack stat on top of that. It's fragile in the HP and defense stats, but it's there to get its hits in and get them in quick. Being pure electric type, by the way, it's only weak to ground type. Perfectly usable. I've used it to good effect in the past. Probably my second favorite electric type in Gen 5 off the top of my head. Next up, we got a Pokemon I've technically talked about before already in this LP. This is Furfrou, a Gen 6 normal type, so it's weak to fighting, immune to ghosts. Furfrou's alright. It's really fast and has some good defenses, especially its physical defense stat, which while it looks low numerically, is actively doubled in combat by its ability Fur Coat. It's just that its specialties could go a lot further if I wanted to actively use something like it. The main thing with it is something I talked about when we first reached Slateport, though. There's several designs for this Pokemon you can have its fur trimmed into, in the case you're trying to get a visual theme going on with your Pokemon or something like that, which is a neat little aspect of it. Really plays into the whole fashionista aspect of Kalos in general, but not for me. But I thank ye for coming along.
Briny, it's like the good old days having you guide the rudder again after all this time. And it's great to see Pico again, too.
Oh, look how thrilled Pico is to see her old pal Drake. But no need to keep going on about it, mind ye. Anyway, it's a short crossing, so drink it all in, eh?
Well then, I'll see you later on. Full speed ahead, Briny.
Aye, aye, old friend. Full speed ahead.
I like details like this with NPCs that are unique or otherwise, just having, connections to notable characters. I think they especially started doing that in Gen 3, especially through May and Brendan's potential relations to either a gym leader or Professor Birch. But they really started going ham on it, especially in Gen 4 beyond, given Barry's whole deal. As I've already said, probably way too many times in this LP, more on that when I actually reach the game in question. And here we're going to have ourselves a double battle, though, and both of the participants are actively going to be new Pokemon. One of them is going to throw out a Tauros, the other is going to throw out a Miltank. Tauros is a Gen 1 pure normal type, so it is weak to fighting, immune to ghosts. Intimidate or Anger Point for its main ability, Sheer Force for its hidden ability. Stat-wise, Tauros is a really fast physical attacker with a really good defense stat. Back in the original Gen 1, this was one of the best Pokemon, and honestly, nowadays, I'd still say it's probably in the top 200 or so, maybe even top 150. Not one I reach for immediately, but one that if I see and I'm in a very good mood for, I will absolutely use. Meanwhile, Miltank, the destroyer of Gen 2 childhoods, is a Gen 2 pure normal type, so it's weak to fighting, immune to ghost. Ability-wise, you can either have Thick Fat, Scrappy, or Sap Sipper. Thick Fat, I think, is the best choice there, as it effectively gives it an extra 2 resistances. Stat-wise, it's got a really good speed stat and a really good physical defense stat. It's effectively the inverse of Tauros in that regard. And there's some good movesets you can use to make this thing just absolutely ridiculous, as Whitney has shown off for several decades at this point. Next up, we're going to actively check out the front deck of the ship at large, and what's worth noting about that is that there is actively a Mega Stone you can get there, directly above you when you actively exit. This, in specific, is the Mega Stone for Blastoise, the Gen 1 water starter. Pure water type at that, so it's weak to grass and electric. Main Blastoise is the mixed defender of the Gen 1 starters, with okay attack stats in both cases as well. When you Mega Evolve it, its ability changes from either Torrent or Rain Dish over to Mega Launcher, where any of its Aura or Pulse moves get increased in damage by 50%, pretty much.
Oh, it's you. How about it? How's the old SS Tidal treating you? I can tell from the sea breeze on my skin that my old friend has still got it.
Nice to see you again, Drake. Otherwise, in Mega Evolving, Mega Blastoise gains 20 physical attack, 20 physical defense, a whopping 50 special attack, and 10 special defense, making for a really good mixed attacker and defender. I don't think I've actively stated this outright yet, but worth noting that basically every Mega Evolution adds a total of 100 stat points to a Pokemon's stat totals. It's just a matter of where those get assigned from, and that's actively why I think they take away points in some cases so they can try to get it to a flat stat total in most cases. Worth noting, we're actively not going to explore the entirety of the SS Tidal today. We're saving the basement of it for next time, more just due to running a bit long in the tooth for the video for my tastes. I like these videos to be between 28 and 32 minutes long, with the occasional like 34-minute one in occasion. I think we've had one 37-minute long one, and that was mostly out of my control at that point given the events going on. By the way, next new Pokemon for the part is a Persian, a Gen 1 pure normal type, so tweaked to fighting, immune to Ghost. Limber, Technician, or Unnerved for its overall ability set. Persian evolves from Meowth at level 28, I believe. It's a very fast Pokemon with no real other standout stats. It's okay at physically attacking, but it's not one I tend to use. I much prefer its Alolan cousin we'll cover down the line, or even its Galarian cousin of sorts later on. One more room to check out, and it's going to once again have another trainer with another new Pokemon for us, just so we can end off the part. In specific, this gentleman trainer is going to throw out a new flying type for us to see, Braviary, a Gen 5 normal flying type, so weak to Rock, Electric, and Ice, but immune to Ground and Ghost. Braviary is one of my favorite of the Pidgey adjacent Pokemon. Really high physical attack stat, really high HP stat, decently fast, good defender overall. Ability-wise, it either has Keen Eye, Sheer Force, or Defiant. Defiant I especially really love for this Pokemon. And worth noting, you can actually catch one of these in its pre-evolution in the sky while you're flying on a Lati, which I don't think I've mentioned yet. Future me will probably put the Pokemon that you can catch up there on screen, but probably at the start of next part rather than right now, as, well, we're done. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 37, we're going to finish off exploring the SS Tidal before heading back to the Battle Resort. See you guys then.